Hi Gemini, I hope you're well. Gemini, we're just going to jump straight into your reading today. And I'm going to start with the fairies today. They're definitely, I tried to record this twice already. I only got about a minute through because of this beautiful little kitty cat right here. But both times I started with my other deck. So I think this was the deck that wanted to actually speak to us. So, Ecstasis and the Journeyman. This is interesting actually that you've got the Journeyman here, because what I had originally started saying in the previous recording of this was, it was this card that came out first. So it's very, very similar symbolism. In fact, it's actually really similar, because on this Journeyman here, we obviously have him holding this orb on the end of his stick, and then we've got this moon up here as well. So there's ones in both of these images, right? And then we've got them going in different directions, or moving towards or moving away from something, and then both of them have this imagery of this sort of orb or this moon, right? So there's definitely some sort of feeling of this journey that's in motion, and I do want to say that it's some sort of a spiritual journey, because we've had the moon come up in two different cards, right, which always represents spirituality. It's the lunar side of the mind. It's the mind that deals with intuition. It's the mind that deals with the unseen, that deals with the spiritual world, the other realm that we can't necessarily perceive with our eyes, right, perceive with the sunlight. It's things that we perceive in the dark that call upon us in our intuition, and the things that we feel internally, right? We move through it more with feeling than we do anything else. And then we have this card here, which is Ecstasis, right, which is literally it reminds me a lot of the time of like a dragonfly energy, or like a praying mantis energy, but it's electrified, right? It's this feeling of ecstasis, this feeling of ecstasy. So I do want to say there's this really beautiful feeling of magic that is drawing you down a very specific pathway at the minute, Gemini. You're sort of feeling it in your heart, but you're also sort of hearing it in your mind. It's sort of like you're following the sound of this song, like almost like I'm getting this really beautiful imagery of you sort of sitting in a forest, and you're sort of sat by a tree, and you're feeling a bit like loss of inspiration and loss of direction, and then suddenly this beautiful music just comes in. It comes through the trees, and suddenly Gemini's like, oh, what is that? And then you're sort of venturing off trying to follow it. And that's sort of the vibe that I'm getting here. But I'm really being drawn to this. You see how on this Ecstasis card here, there's these intermittent sort of spots of light, right? It's like you're only getting a certain amount of the breadcrumb trail at a time. It's not very much like a clear direction, right? You're kind of being led by light. You're being led by these, it's sort of like you're in a dark forest, right? And you're hearing this sound, this song, which is representative of your feeling, right? Your emotion. You're sort of being moved towards one direction. But then every now and then there's like these little signposts are kind of popping up, right? Which is your confirmation from spirit, right? Which direction you need to head in. So you're sort of in this dark forest, and then suddenly it's like bing. You see this sort of flash or sparkle of light, so you know to go in that direction. And then Gemini's kind of sat there waiting again, waiting for the next hint of which direction to go, and then ding, Gemini goes in that direction. Do you see what I mean? That's kind of like the energy that's coming through with this intermittent light. It's not quite a clear path, and a lot of it does need to be guided by your intuition, but nonetheless you're moving, Gemini. You're like going in the direction. And I do want to say that the direction that you're going in, although you might not fully understand it even, or you might not fully quite know where you're going, and it might not seem completely clear at the minute, you're going in the right direction. And the guidance is to just keep going, and very slowly each bit will be revealed to you, Gemini. It will come bit by bit and piece by piece. So there's very much this message of just relax, rest into it, stamp down any of this kind of serious well, you have to think about this, Gemini. You have to really consider your options here. Remember, you've got these things that you need to sort first before you go off on any adventure, Gemini, right? That might be coming from family, that might be coming from your own personal regimented part of your mind. But this is who you need to become, right? You need to maintain this vitality, this sort of very childlike energy of like anything's possible. It's almost like Spirit's calling you, like, Gemini, remember where we were headed all those years ago? Do you remember which direction we were going in? And then life just got in the way, and all this serious, heavy stuff just got in the way, all these responsibilities and these duties, and or what we were told was the right direction to go in, right? All of that kind of chatter, that chitter chatter that's going on in the brain. This is you stamping down on that and being like, no, I don't quite know where I'm going. Right, with this, I don't quite know where I'm heading, but I do feel like it's the right direction, and I trust in the process that I am going where I need to go. Gemini, I love it. I'm gonna pull another fairies card, actually, Gemini. They haven't really made too much of an appearance in the last few readings, but I feel like they really want to come through for you today. Wow, that's a lot of cards. I'm gonna take that one because it fell out separately compared to the others that flipped around. What was I saying about this feeling of motion and moving, right? You got Gunna. This is literally the card of physical movement in the deck. Okay, you see how she's got these like frog legs here? She's very much in this act of waiting for the next leap, right? Waiting for the next direction which to go in. What was I saying here? You've got all these cards of motion and movement, right? And what's interesting is this individual here, he's not winged, right? But what was I saying about this card here? This always reminds me of a dragonfly because we can see these beautiful wings on the edges of it. And this card is kind of like the joining of both of those things. We've got this beautiful trailing wings of light here, and then we've got this person just very much, you know, eyes closed, or this very relaxed expression on their face, just trusting in the flow and trusting in the journey. But remember what I was saying before about this feeling of stop, start, stop, start? You might be feeling sort of directionless on certain points of this journey, Gemini. On certain moments of this path, you might be feeling very directionless, and that might be quite frightening. But this is coming through with this message of kind of relaxing into that feeling of not always quite knowing, and just relaxing into peace in the moments when you're not quite sure where you're going next, and just trusting that whilst you're sat here waiting on this little mushroom, waiting for it, you see how she literally looks like she's listening. It's like she's sat there listening for that part of the song, that next part of the song that we were saying before. She's just sitting in peace, being very meditative, and just waiting for the next lot of signals. This can be seen like Morse code now, right? It's like the next lot of signals to send her down on her pathway, right? So this is just reconfirming everything that we were saying. And in the actual guidebook, Gunna actually represents physical movement, a move in area, a move in environment, you know, not just like a motion or a movement of a situation, but an actual physical movement. So you might be physically moving somewhere, or you might be physically moving in a direction that you never previously had seen yourself going in, whether it being in a job, in a career, or just moving to an area that you weren't really ever considering before. However you want to interpret it, you will know what that represents for you. But we'll get a bit more, Gemini. But it's really beautiful. Like, the message that's just sort of coming through is just this message of patience, Gemini. Being very, very patient, waiting for the next set of instructions, and trusting in that. So Gemini. Ace of Pentacles and Seven of Pentacles. I hope you can see the detail on this card, Gemini. My camera doesn't quite focus. But at first sort of glance, I guess it kind of looks like a twisted forest, or perhaps the side of a mountain, or sort of like a group of rocks or something like that. But actually, if you look really closely, and I'm not sure how well the camera's picking it up, but if you look really closely, there's all these different faces here, right? But they look very haggard. They look very sort of furrowed brow, very serious, like they're trying to get a point across. They're trying to make you listen, Gemini. They almost represent this weight of responsibility. And the reason why I say that, because in this Ace of Pentacles here, Gemini, we've got this individual here, and the home is far in the background, right? This feeling of sanctuary, sanctity, comfort, sticking within the borders of the known, right, is sort of far in the background. And here you are, sort of out in nature and out in the elements doing your crafts, and you're not really focused on this feeling of home. And when we couple that with this, right, this responsible voice, and the reason why I keep saying that is because when we go back to the start, right, there was this individual here which was sort of representing the voices of responsibility. There are voices of what is the most safest and acceptable path for you, Gemini. What provides the most? What is providing you the insurance that you need? Well, the insurance that you need, not the insurance that you need, Gemini, but the insurance that these individuals here, these might be very concerned parents, or they might be people who just aren't very supportive of what it is that Gemini wants to do, or this new idea that Gemini has, or this feeling of just releasing and letting go and allowing Gemini to just be called down the right path, down the right direction. But you're not really taking much attention, Gemini, and I do want to say that that is the right position to take, and to just hold your position there, because even if all these voices, and like I said earlier, this could represent just the chatter of, you know, your ego, the chatter of the safe side of the brain that doesn't want you to necessarily venture too far, and doesn't want you to take risks or take chances, because it would rather feel safe and comfortable and not be outside its comfort zone, right? Comfort zone way back here with this house. So I do want to say that is the correct approach to take, Gemini. Absolutely follow this kind of star, right? Follow this sort of guiding star, this sort of guiding direction. And stars are so symbolic, right? Because obviously the North Star is an actual point of guidance, right? When people are out at sea, or, you know, way back in ancient times, when it was literally a case of navigating by the stars, you know, at night time, or the moon with compass and that. So a star always represents a point of guidance, right? A point on the compass in which to follow and in which to base your direction upon, right? And what was I saying here? It was like these little specks of light just trailing this pathway forward for you. And the fact that he's holding this star like so close to his heart, right? It's like I can literally, it's like Gemini's just cradling this little hope, this little shred of light within them. And it's just kind of like, everyone else is just kind of like, chatter, don't do this, Gemini, do this, blah, 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 blah. And Gemini's just there like, just trying to like close it all out. And is just holding on to this very silent, very internal, very peaceful light that only comes out or can only be heard when Gemini can just get away enough from the chatter of everything else, or the chatter of the world, or the responsibility of the world, and just listen to this slight song, right? This song, it's just this very similar energy of like direction, this guidance of inspiration, of song, of light, right? So it's very spiritual. It's very spiritual. It's sort of like your internal magic, your internal essence is kind of guiding you. And the only time you can really sort of quiet everything else enough is when you can kind of hear or see the next point of direction. So you might really be working very closely with spirit right now, Gemini. And I do want to say that if perhaps you're watching this and perhaps you feel like you're not able to make the connection to spirit that you're trying, perhaps you're trying to rekindle a connection to spirit, or you're just feeling like you're not being heard or that you're not getting the responses that you need, I do want to say that just hold on to that, Gemini. Hold on to that little piece of internal light, that little piece of internal essence, and keep just trying to cancel out all this chatter and listen to your own internal song, because you are being watched over very closely and you are being guided. But this is the thing, right? When we're on our own internal paths, our own direction, spirit is working with us if we are reaching out to them and if we're asking and calling them in to have a relationship with us, right? But they can't always show us piece by piece which way to go, because it's all a learning experience. We can't just expect a complete roadmap and here you go, this is the direction you need to go in, this is how it's going to work out, and this is how it's going to play. So what I do want to say, Gemini, is that this is the lesson. Whoever this is for, this lesson is about you learning to trust your own intuition. Not what other people are telling you, not what I'm telling you, not what the other tarot readers telling you, or your friends, or your family, or whatever your social media people that you follow are telling you, you know. It's about quietening all of that, because I'm saying obviously about this, it's the repetitive image of following this internal song, following this direction, leaning into spirit, leaning into your own sort of light to guide the way. I have no idea where your destination is, Gemini. This isn't in the cards and it's not being revealed to me, and it's not being revealed to you just yet. This is about you learning to build a relationship with your own intuition and learning to trust it. And piece by piece, spirit will guide you and they will lead you in the right direction. So it's about this very, very, what's the right word? It's not that it's like advanced, right? But you're not being coddled by spirit. Is that the word? Coddled? You're not being given all the answers. Spirit is allowing you to lean into your own inner magic because they believe that you have reservoirs of it. But unless you actually have to try and navigate it yourself and build on that intuition, right? Because the more that we use it, the stronger it gets. And if everything's just given to us on a plate, then it's never going to increase our skills or increase our own internal compass, right? Stars and navigation is all this beautiful imagery still. So this is very much about you growing your skills, gaining strength in them, and gaining trust in them, Gemini. Because the more you follow it without loads of direction and just following that trust and following that inspiration and following that guidance, when you can just quiet everything enough to hear it, the more you trust it and the more that you work with spirit and trust spirit and just follow this very light breadcrumb trail that's being scattered around you, leading you in this direction. And then the more that you trust that and end up in a really beautiful place, which is yet to be revealed, that's when you'll realize that the magic is real, Gemini. That's when you'll realize that it doesn't matter what anyone else is saying. You've discovered that magic actually exists because you've quieted the chatter enough to follow your own path, to follow that own inkling that you had all along. The magic's real, Gemini, and that's where I just kind of want to leave you to it. So that's very mysterious, that reading. It wasn't at all obvious, and I feel like that's sort of how it needed to come across. Like there was no sort of set message as such. It was just more like these words of encouragement to just keep doing what you're doing, Gemini. And in fact, I feel like I shouldn't even say too much more, because I feel like whatever that message meant to someone, it definitely hit where it needed to hit. So I'm gonna leave that there, Gemini. But thank you for the beautiful mystery and the magic that felt. Oh, it was, ooh, I loved it. Thank you, Gemini. Gemini, I'm sending you lots of love and light, and hopefully I will see you in my next video. Bye, Gemini.